Well, hello there, Rip City. Welcome into another edition of the 1977 podcast, a podcast that runs 19 minutes and 77 seconds in honor of your world champion 1977 Portland Trail Blazers. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. Follow me over on social at Chris J. Burkhardt. And, of course, on Rip City Radio 2 hours before every game with Blazers Game Day and after every game on the fifth quarter. But I am live right now recording this. You're not listening to it live, but right now I'm sitting at the meeting place of the third bench, the Pines, inside Moda Center, waiting for the Blazers to end their homestand later tonight against the Sacramento Kings. It's been a heck of a ride for the Trailblazers right now. Winners of 9 of their last 10. Everyone's been looking good. Scoot Henderson's been looking great. Anthony has had his games. Denny and Tumani have been incredible. Shea started to get it going offensively, but we're not here to talk about that just yet. We got to talk about the NBA trade deadline, which passed, by the time you're listening to this, probably, tomorrow or yesterday, but it was 4 hours ago that the trade deadline was ended, noon Pacific time, and the Blazers, they stood pat. They didn't make any moves in what was an absolute crazy trade deadline, man, where you found, granted it wasn't on deadline day, but you found Luka going to L.A., Jimmy Butler going to Golden State, Zach LaVine wearing a Kings jersey now, Brandon Ingram is in Toronto, Chris Middleton in Washington. The list goes on and on. Obviously, Anthony Davis now in Dallas, Kyle Kuzma in Milwaukee, De'Aaron Fox in San Antonio, Andrew Wiggins in Miami. I mean, unreal what has happened here at the trade deadline, and the Blazers didn't make any moves. A lot of fans wanted them to, and I understand that, right? You're sitting here and you're looking at this team, and people are upset because the tank train is no longer on the track, right? Because when you go out and you win 9 to 10 games, things start looking good for you, and the teams are playing wonderful. They're sitting there closer to the play-in than they are the last spot in the West, which is something no one, I think, would have thought would happen here. Like I said, if I would have told you at the beginning of the year, at some point the Blazers are going to win 9 out of 10 games, have a 4-game win streak, 5-game win streak, or Luka Doncic is going to get traded, you probably would have all been like, yeah, it's probably more likely that Luka gets traded. However, we live in a world now where both of those things happened, if you can believe it, right? But the Blazers, again, they didn't make any moves, and people thought that they would, but I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, okay? I think the team's playing well right now, which we all like. I think if you look at the way things are, they're probably going to still end up in the lottery. Could crazy things happen? Like, absolutely crazy things could happen. 3.5 games back from the play-in right now, and you look at the teams in the playoffs for the Western Conference right now. Well, Phoenix is right there at the 10 spot. Well, Portland just beat them twice. Sacramento's at the 9 spot. Portland gets a chance to take a win over them tonight, right? So maybe this team lucks into the play-in and things are great. I've been very firmly on the ride the wave, right? Ride the wave. But right now it doesn't really matter. Like if they lose some, they win some, just enjoy it. Live in the moment, right? We talked about that in the last episode. But I just want to get more honed in on the trade deadline and what happened or what didn't happen. People were talking about Anthony Simons being moved. That didn't happen. People were talking about Jeremy Grant being moved. That didn't happen. Robert Williams or DeAndre Ayton. None of that happened. And I just want to tell everyone that's okay, because as much as we've talked about these moves needing to happen, the trade deadline is not the end-all, be-all of how you build your roster. Now, you can look at how the trade deadline happened here and go, oh, yeah, that's kind of crazy because there were so many trades that went down. Pretty much every single team except it was like, Denver, Minnesota, Orlando, and Portland made a move in some way. And Portland didn't. But I want to look at, Malcolm Brogdon, right? Everyone wanted him moved at the deadline. That didn't happen last year. You moved him over the summer. You got Denny Avdia. That's something that's working out for you right now. The trade deadline, even though it happens in the middle of the NBA season, isn't really the end. It is more of the start of trade season, really, if you think about it, because then you got what everyone does in, the buyout market. There's some roster moves there. Portland won't be involved in that. But then you get to the offseason, free agency, how trades happen there for teams to free up money, the draft night, how teams are whether moving up or down on the draft and attaching players. I mean, you can look at the fact that just last summer alone, right, you had multiple trades happen, and they weren't trade deadline deals. Absolutely not. But you saw DeJounte Murray got traded, right? DeMar DeRozan was traded over the summer. Karl Anthony Towns was traded right before the season. So, again, you can just go through a list of teams and players and what happened in the offseason and understand that there's still a window here for the team to make some moves. So I wouldn't be too upset that the trade deadline has come and passed and none were made right now. And if the case were that, Joe Cronin didn't see any deals that he liked, or there's some that fell through, or, teams were underselling what he thought the value was, that's absolutely fine, because you have the off season, and that's where I would be focused on right now. I text a friend of the show and Trailcaster buddy, Keith Feltner-Smith, record another podcast, my guy. But I text him how, people are upset with this. And I get it. Again, you fan how you want to fan, but I am not. Because I sit here and I look at the situation, I'm like, okay, if you enter the 25-26 season and you haven't adjusted your roster, then you have problems. But you have this full trade cycle right here for things to happen, and that's what I'd be focusing on. Absolutely be focusing on what's going to happen in the summer. Because, again, I lean back to Malcolm Brogdon, and it was Jason in the Trailcasters Discord who mentioned it. He wasn't traded at the deadline. People wanted him to be traded at the deadline. What happened in the summer ended up working out for you, because Denny Avdia has been absolutely incredible, right? So I still think that's going to be fine. And I would expect moves to be made. I mean, we all know what this team is trying to do in the long run. I don't think just because you look around and everybody else is making moves at the deadline means that you have to make a panic move to do that as well. I would also argue that right now, you look at the overtime game. I know the overtime game, Chauncey really relied on the vets a little bit, and that got some people irritated because they wanted to see the young guys play. But for the most part, this 9 out of 10 game run that they're on, the young guys have been playing incredible. So I don't think playing Jeremy and Ant and all that right now has been a complete detriment to the progression and the maturation of the young guys, because I think they've been doing very, very well in what they've been asked to do. You can't look at this 10-game stretch and look at guys like Scoot and think he's been playing awful, and then look at Denny and Tumani and say, they've been playing awful, and Shaedon Sharpe, who's started to come around and play pretty well too. Right, so now you have Donovan Clingan, who in that game he only gets 10 minutes in the game against the Suns that went to overtime, and then doesn't play the next night, and people were upset about that too. How about he's not playing? Why is he not playing at all? And Robert Williams as well. Again, all year long, whether Robert Williams or Donovan Clingan were both healthy or not, neither one of them has played the second game of the back-to-back, or they sat the first game of the back-to-back and played the second, depending on how the schedule has gone out. But that was all just part of injury management. And then you look at that game against the Suns, and I think you could just obviously tell that coach wanted to ride the hot hands, and the team wanted to win that game. I think the team was in a spot where if he would have put a, air quotes, bad lineup out there to not try to win that game, probably would have done more harm than good, because the locker room's riding high, right? And Donovan Clingan, for as fun as he's been and as good as he's been on the defensive side, leaves a lot to be desired offensively. He needs a lot of work there. And you guys know, I was on team play him as much as possible early in the year when the team was looking like absolute garbage, right? Let's be fair. The team did not look good, especially when they're getting blown out of their own gym by 40 points by multiple teams. And at that point, I'm like, play Donovan 30 minutes a night. I don't care. Let him get gassed. Let him get hosed. Let him learn a little bit. But when the team's playing well, then yeah, I don't want him in that situation, because when he gets out there and the teams that they're playing are exposing him, that's not doing a ton of good. And I do think he's still learning on that offensive side. Defensively, he's going to get better and better and better. He's never going to be an offensive guy, in my opinion. But you look at that Suns game, man, he got the ball down low in the paint, matched up against Devin Booker, and couldn't back him down to get a bucket because of his limited offensive game. So when he comes in offensively, it's kind of like they're playing 4-on-5. And that's no fun. And defensively, he's shown some holes there too. The inability to get out to the three-point line and really guard that. He's incredible at the rim right now. But he's got holes. He's got holes, and he's learning. And I think right now, quite honestly, when he's playing those 10 to 12, and again, you guys know me. I'm the guy who's been on this whole play him a ton. But right now, where he's at, he's got over some of the little things that getting on the court really was able to knock out. Like, he keeps the ball up, doesn't put it down as much. Little things like that. He's a little bit more aware of where he is for those offensive offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds too, which is great. But even in these limited minutes, allow him to just take little things in chunks rather than just throw it all at him at once. And I think it's beneficial to him at this point in the season, especially when the team's riding high. Now, if the team, again, is going full tank and they're not worried about winning, because it's quite obvious that winning is what they want to do right now, then yeah, you get him out there. But I'm not too upset about that in the long run. Again, I know some people were, and that's completely fine. One thing I'm not going to tell you to do is I'm not going to tell you how to fan. We've talked about that quite a bit, right? But in this particular instance, it's okay. So I don't think this run has really hurt the young guys. I mean, even Jeremy Grant being in the lineup and Denny still getting his minutes, Tu still getting his minutes, Scoot still playing incredibly well. I mean, you can argue that he should be in the starting lineup. I would probably argue with you because I love him in the starting lineup. I love what he's done. But look at that Indiana game, right? So Scoot Henderson plays 27 minutes. So he only played roughly 4 minutes less than Anthony Simons at the end of the day. But he had 17 points. He had 8 rebounds. He had 5 assists. He was second on the team with a plus-minus of plus 31. Toumani Camara leading the way with a plus 33. So he was still finding ways to impact the game and be very, very efficient with those minutes. And so, again, starting Ant and then the 2 Denny Grant DA lineup wasn't a detriment to Scoot Henderson's progression in this game at all, which is good. That's what you want to see, right? And then Shaedon Sharpe as well. He played 24 minutes, 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 steals. And what you like about his performance is over these last few games is he's really starting to get a little bit more locked in defensively. Now, he's not a great defender, right? But there's some potential there because he has the size. And over the last few games, he's been a lot more locked in, even though he's coming off the bench. And that's exactly why he was sent to the bench in the first place, right? Was coach didn't like the spirit or whatever he was going to call it, the focus, and wanted him more locked in defensively, and that's what you're getting from him over the last few games. So again, the guys who are riding the bench might not be the guys that you wanted. You might want to get them in the starting lineup, which I completely agree. But right now, the main focus, if the main focus is development as well, which it should be, they're developing just fine, and your team is also winning on top of that. So you're riding the wave, you're enjoying the development, and I don't know if there's much more development to be had with 5 extra minutes. That being said, now you look at some games, like the game in Charlotte when Scoot's not even playing in the fourth quarter until Shea gets into foul trouble and fouls out. Like then yeah, that's frustrating. That's frustrating because you want him to get out there. But for the most part, guys, and my boy Keith, I think you're going to be all right. I think you're going to be okay. But right now, regardless, isn't it fun? Isn't it fun? Because when Keith and I were debating, and he used some choice words I called him out for. He called me back out. We were just having a good old friend verbal punching fest. But it was like you can enjoy the win and still be critical of things that you don't like going on from a management perspective. And I agree, that's totally fair. But you can't. There's nobody who can watch this team right now and not be enjoying what they're seeing on the floor. Okay? I mean, if you're not, then I personally don't know how to approach you to find what exactly you're looking for, because the winning's great. 9 out of 10 games is great. The fact that you're seeing Tu and Denny and the young guys play like this right now is great, right? You might be losing ping pong balls, but I don't think that really matters at the end of the day. Oh, no, you don't get Cooper Flag. Wah. Wah. I mean, I pointed this out before, but I mean, where was Damian Lillard drafted? He wasn't drafted number 1, wasn't drafted number 2, wasn't even drafted number 3, right? And that seemed to work out pretty good for you. What was Clyde? Clyde was like the 14th overall pick or something like that. That worked out pretty well. The draft is a massive crapshoot, and you never know what's going to happen. I do think they're going to be fine. I think the Blazers are going to, get into that lottery, and they're going to get a ping pong ball. And you still have odds of getting in and getting high in the draft and feeling good about it. But right now, you're also building something that this team can continue to build off of in future years or whatever that is. And that's just this way of winning and playing free and playing accountable. Like, that's the biggest thing we've heard from these guys over and over and over this last stretch is accountability. I think the switch really flipped when they were called out by Coach. Coach brought every single one of them into his room one by one and said, like, are you ready to be held accountable? Are you ready to be called out? And they all said yes. And now you've heard in all these post-game pressers, DeAndre and Shaedon and Scoot, being held accountable. Tumani's been talking about it a lot. We're allowed to call each other out. We're communicating better because of it. And you look at that game in Indiana, and there was points in that game where the Blazers made the wrong defensive play, led to a foul, and it's like DA runs right over to Tumani and gets in his ear. Not aggressively, just gets in his ear. They're talking. You see him pointing. And then Tumani gets in DA's ear, and he's pointing. And next thing you know, Denny Avdia sees that they're talking, so he comes over. And the three of them are literally talking about how to improve the defense that they just messed up on. And you haven't seen a lot of that earlier in the year. And we had a caller into the fifth quarter talking about energy, too, right? So we're talking about Polynesian style, the mana, right? The energy around you and the energy you put into the world. And I think that the Blazers right now, the energy is good. The energy's great. And it's not something you could have said a month and a half ago, right? This is, for some reason, this is the exact same season that we watched fans walk out of this building saying they were embarrassed. Embarrassed to be Blazer fans after that drubbing that they took at the hands of the Memphis Grizzlies. And right now, in the same season, you're all of a sudden in the best stretch of 10 games that you've had in like 5 years. So that's pretty good. You got to ride that wave. So long story short, the wave is fun. The surfing is great. Get back out there, get on another wave every time they crest and just keep riding it, baby. Hang loose. But I just don't think that the fact that the Blazers did not make a move at this deadline, as frustrating as it can be for some, is not the end-all, be-all of where this team's going to go success-wise. It's not the end-all, be-all of who's going to be on this roster moving forward. And if this team goes in and gets into the play-in, guess what? Then we're going to have a hell of a time, aren't we? We're going to have a hell of a time, as in a fun time, as Blazer fans. And then you get into the offseason, and then you make some moves, and you still have your core. I mean, if you end up going throughout the rest of this year and you keep riding this wave, maybe you don't even make the play, and maybe you finish, 11th or what have you, but you got through this streak of winning. It's not bad, because then when you do go move off of everybody, well, then guess what? Scoot and Shea and Denny and Tumani and whoever else you keep, they experience some winning, and that matters. That matters. Just look at the smile on Shaedon Sharpe's face after the game the other day when he was asked about, how it felt to be on a win streak like this. You've experienced a lot of losing. You've experienced a lot of losing in your time here. How fun has it been to, win 9 out of 10? Oh, yeah, it's been fun, he said. It's been a lot of fun. And the team is doing things that I think as fans we love. We don't like, we love. I mean, the other day I tweeted during the game, and even if I post on Blue Sky, it's still called a tweet. I think anytime I post a show social, it's a tweet. It's like growing up playing Nintendo, right? It doesn't matter if you were playing a Sega, you were still playing Nintendo. Like if I'm posting on any social, I'm just tweeting, right? But I just tweeted how lob, 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 lob. Not blob, lob, L-O-B. Because it was a alley-oop fest against the Pacers. DA throwing them down, Tumani throwing them down, Sharpe throwing them down. A couple breakaway dunks by not only Shaedon Sharpe, but DA had a breakaway dunk. The basketball is fun. F is for friends who do stuff together. U is for you and me. N is for anywhere, anytime, and all, right here in Rip City. Shout out to people who got that reference. Who listened long enough to get the reference. Thank you. But again, trade deadline is come and gone. Blazers held pat. As of this recording, Joe Cronin hasn't talked to the media, but he is going to before the game today against Sacramento. And regardless of what he says, I'm still confident that the things are going to go in the right direction, because we've talked about it all year long, heading up to the deadline. We talked about at the beginning of the year that the offseason was key, because there's still plenty of time to make moves. Trade deadline is more of the start to the trade season than it is the end of it, if you really think about it, right? Because plenty of trades happened in the offseason. Caruso to Oklahoma City, right? That was one of them. So it's going to be okay. Now, if you enter next season, it's November 1st, and you still haven't made a move, okay, then we might start to be just a little bit irritated. But right now, I actually think Joe is doing exactly what he wants to do, and he's not being played. And that's worked out for him well thus far. That's going to do it for this episode, though, of the 1977 podcast. Thanks to everybody who has been tuning in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. You guys have been awesome. The feedback's been great. Hit me up on social, all that. Tell me what you want me to talk about and improve on. I'll do it, because this podcast is not for me. It is for you to sit here and talk Blazer basketball. But until next time, Rip City, I love you guys.
You've been listening to the 1977 podcast. See you next time.